Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. My name is Chad. Take a dive on sports, and welcome to the continuing saga of conference realignment. And the reason for the long delay between my previous video of the Irish job and now is I was waiting for the Irish to make a move or any other schools to make a move, and nothing has transpired. So we'll kind of go over some of the aspects dealing with this and probably look at some ways and some things that kind of happening. But so right now I think the mega conferences might be on hold, but we'll see what happens. So before we dive into all that nonsense, if you could go ahead and smash that thumbs up for me, especially like the content provider. You really appreciate you two guys help promote this channel out. You also subscribe. A lot of you guys review my work. I love you all for doing that. Now, many of you subscribe. That's cost you a dime. Helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Now, looking at some of these aspects, I came up with a couple of videos, a couple of scenarios. Had SEC go extremely wild and go up to Kansas. I know. I already knew that was extreme. And, I think Oklahoma State, West Virginia are viable choices for the SEC. SEC, I think I'm looking more at the ACC schools to join than those two. But right now, the SEC is stating they're staying put. They're staying at 16. They're going forward because they're going to ride the coattails of the Texas, A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. I mean, you name the SEC program besides Vanderbilt, that's what they're running with. So an SEC contract, which is not coming up for a couple more years, will be huge. It's going to be huge. The next contracts I have to worry about are the Pac-12 and the Big Ten's contract. Now, we will expect those to fetch very high numbers. Right now, the estimates for the Big Ten upwards to $100 million per program. That's because it will hit all three major media markets with New York, Chicago, and LA. The Pac-12, you can't really call that once, USC, UCLA leave, don't really have those attractive schools. I mean, right now, Oregon and Utah are your best two programs that will be left. But they don't really, ring the bell in terms of the media markets. Portland, Salt Lake City are not that high. Sorry to say, their biggest market for the Pac is now the Phoenix, San Francisco area. And the problem with the Pac is they had to deal with a lot of NFL sites, NFL teams in their area. I mean, Seattle has the Seahawks, Phoenix has the Cardinals, of course, San Fran, we all know about that, crazy team, the 49ers. So you have all those, NFL franchises right there. So we kind of see how that kind of plays out, but I'll start off with the rest of this video. I'm going to concentrate on the Pac-12 right now. There was rumors that the Pac-12 ACC were going to do an alliance. That quickly they kind of somewhat did an agreement, but nothing really substantial, and just kind of fizzled away. The Big 12 was looking to expand and raid the Pac-12, and then they're looking at, Colorado, Utah, Arizona State, and possibly even Oregon and Washington. Oregon and Washington applied for the Big Ten, and the Big Ten said, just hang on a minute, we're waiting on some other things first before we consider you. That's now kind of gone away. And then there was talks of the Pac-12 and Big 12 merging. That has now been nixed. It looks like they're not going to do any type of merger because you look at that, that's a 22-member conference. I mean, so to add two more, and I think the Big 12 have a couple in mind for that one. But I think one of the reasons why this is that kind of got nixed is the Pac-12, or I'll just call them the Pac. And the Pac has a educational threshold that schools must meet. much like the Big Ten is. You have to be an AAU member to get into the conference. Even though Notre Dame's been targeted, they will overlook the AAU membership to allow Notre Dame in because of their high academics. So, looking at that aspect, every member of the PAC is an R1 research university, which is pretty much a slight step below the AAU members. And the rumors are, or the fan theories are, Boise State, San Diego State, the top two, or San Diego State, Fresno State are in line to replace USC, UCLA. Not so much. Now I'll have to read, so I can pull up my glasses here. Getting old sucks. And with my notes here, with the current Mountain West Conference, I've stated this a couple times before in other videos. There's 5 members right now that are R1 institutions. That's Colorado State, Utah State, New Mexico, Nevada, and UNLV. Colorado State will be blocked by Colorado right away. I think Utah State will be blocked by Utah right away. So I'll leave you Nevada, UNLV, New Mexico, and none of them really move the needle. And then you look at the 4 members that are R2, and that's Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Wyoming. Now all 4 of those are enticing, however, they need to increase the academic level, i.e. doctoral programs, especially for Boise State, to be considered in the PAC. Even though Boise State and San Diego State are the prime 2 universities that come out of the Mountain West, however, they don't have that particular threshold for PAC membership, unless the PAC downgrades the requirements, which I highly doubt it, because they're pretty much like, the Ivy, the Patriot League's the same way, Big Ten, they all specify more academics over athletics. But in terms of the Big Ten, their athletics are pretty damn good themselves. So it kind of goes up to, do they take Nevada and UNLV as the only 2 R1 facilities in the West region that could possibly be up there? Maybe. I've stated UNLV before because of Las Vegas. There's a growing mecca right now for professional sports. It is now home of Pac-12 championships, so why not put UNLV in there? That really help them out, give them a little extra money. That could actually help them recruit a little bit better. So it's all upside for UNLV to join, all downside for the PAC to bring them in. And Nevada, good middle of a road program, has a few good seasons here and there. But beyond that, there's not much else. Now, the PAC could, I'm not saying they would, could look somewhere else. And they could actually go to the FCS and look at Montana and Montana State. Both of them are R1 universities. Montana has history with some of the members of the PAC already. Used to be a member of the Old Pacific Coast Conference with them. So they could reignite some of those rivalries that way. You also bring in a couple powerhouses from the FCS that, after meeting their requirements, could become viable contenders. But what does that make the PAC then? Now they're adding FCS schools to a Power 5 conference. So I don't see those 2 making the move up. If they go anywhere, it'll be the Mountain West, and then maybe they'll make their trek over. So I think the Pac-12 will revert back to the Pac-10. I don't see anything else really happening unless there's another major shift in the realignment. As of right now, there's not. And one of the reasons why is the Irish. And for them, they are looking to stay independent. As much as there was talk of them possibly joining the Big Ten because that makes the most sense, regionally and rivalry sake wise, They still want their independence. They like how they got everything set up the way they like it. They schedule their own games. They have their 5 games against ACC. They got their rivalry games with Navy and USC and Stanford every year. And they can find, whoever they want to play for the remaining games, and people will want to play them because it's Notre Dame. But right now they're looking at trying to get a deal from NBC, looking at a $75 million payout, which is a huge increase for what they're getting right now, which is 15. So we'll kind of see how that one kind of transpires with them, because the Big Ten right now is looking at Fox for their TV partner. So I don't see the Big Ten and Notre Dame kind of merging their assets. I don't see Notre Dame going to ACC either. ACC payout is horrible. Right now, there's rumors in the wind. Right now, the ACC is looking to renegotiate that deal to at least be on par with probably the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or somewhere in along those neighborhoods. Maybe getting themselves in that 50 or 60 million mark. Because schools in the ACC want to stay in the ACC, even though there's rumors of like Florida State possibly wanting to get out, Clemson, Miami, all looking at the SEC as their future home. So that's a whole different mess. But like I said in previous videos, ACC contract doesn't expire till like 35, 36. So they're in there for the long haul. So you can't see those guys moving anytime soon, unless they could somehow be able to renegotiate or break the contract somehow without coughing up something north of $50 million of exit fees. And then one little final note, the Big 12 is still kind of looking at expanding their footprint. Now, for them, I think if they expand any more, they're really questioning their staying power as a Power 5 school. There's that many programs left out there that I think I would really consider. But I think they're looking at Memphis, SMU, Boise State, and I believe San Diego State are like their top 4 that's left. I think those right there are it. I know South Florida was mentioned before because it's Tampa, but their athletic program has gone a little downhill a little bit. And now you got to compete with the Buccaneers for football fans. So I don't know if you want to go into South Florida, but it'd be great for UCF, gives them a travel partner. So I can see the draw for that one. I see the draw for Memphis. A nice size little market like Cincinnati. Very similar styles, even though Cincinnati right now is sitting on top over Memphis. But Memphis was there a little bit before them, or in between them possibly. So I see the draw of that. I see the draw for SMU because all the rivalries from the old Southwest days with Houston and TCU, Baylor, and Texas Tech. That's another Texas program, and I don't know if the rest of the conference wants another Texas program. Boise State, the original BCS Buster, of course, is on everyone's dream radar for conferences. And San Diego State is the other top team out there in the Mountain West. And if they grab San Diego State, they'll definitely be like the Big Ten, a coast-to-coast conference. As we all know, geography plays no sense in this whatsoever. And they're just looking at what could give them the most bang for the buck. What could give them more money in the contracts. And that's the big thing. And then once, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Pac renegotiate their deals, it's the college football playoff is the next thing they have to look at, and that contract is set to expire in 26. The 12-team format has been nixed, or at least tabled. I don't say nixed, but at least tabled. Because I think one of the sticking points right now is automatic qualifiers, and the SEC commissioner kind of said, I don't want automatic qualifiers. I don't mind, say the top 6 conference champions, regardless, and 6 at large. Because basically what he's looking at, wants to make sure that he has the ability to put 3 or 4 SEC schools in the playoff. And there are a lot of people out there that go, what's the problem with that? And there's a few problems with that, but that's a different story. I'm not really a big fan of the AQs either, unless you find a way to ensure all 10 conferences are added. Yes, even Conference USA. Then that's the only way I would, think a AQ system would work in college football, but that's too much. Going with a 18 format with 6 conference champions, I don't think it'd be very viable either, because it doesn't allow you that many at-large teams. So that negates the Notre Dame's aspect, or maybe a second SEC or second Big Ten program getting in there. And I think for me, I would prefer all conference champions in there, and then you have your top 6 at large. That way you emphasize winning your conference first, much like the NFL says win your division to get into the playoffs. And I think that's how the in college should be like that. You're like that with March Madness. You got to win your college tournament to get your automatic bid. You know how many conferences there are right there, and there's 66 slots. So there's plenty of teams to get in there. So I think, a 16 or 24 school format to allow all 10 conference champions, I think it's the utmost thing. But for the FBS to do that, that means they're scrapping the bowls, and they won't do that. So let's scale this back a bit and kind of go, all right, I think an 8-team right now is probably the best option. That way give you a extended look, and then you put the first round at home sites. Then that way they get into another bowl game somewhere, and the 4 winners go into semifinals. I think that one's probably more viable, but then, okay, who are you going to select? More likely, it's going to be at least 4 conference champions. And I think that's probably the best option is going, okay, you'll have your top 4 conference champs, and then you 4 at large. No AQs. So that pretty much puts them right back where they're at, where like the once all dust settles from this whole realignment scenario, the Pac-12 and the Pac and the Big 12 looking on the outside, looking in, and find themselves behind, Mountain West, the Big 10, ACC, and the ACC in terms of, again, a conference champion in there. But I think going with the top 8-ish schools, I think is probably the best option. I would still prefer to see more conference champions get in, and not necessarily awarding a system where humans pick the top 8. Because we all know humans are flawed. Humans have their favorites. And the SEC get the most attention. And rightfully so. They're literally the top football conference in the nation right now. I think the Big Ten is right behind them. So, SEC and the Big Ten are probably getting get half the slots just between those 2 conferences alone. And then leave rest of the landscape to get 4 slots. So, I don't know. It's a convoluted mess, because you got to find a way to balance winning your conference as well as awarding those programs that may be in a conference where they go and limit to 1 and still not make it to the conference championship game. Those are possibilities. And I think one way to ensure you have your best 2 schools battle your conference, you get rid of your divisions, so that we take your top 2 programs, period, so you don't have a 6 and 5, or in 6 and 6 school taking on a 10 and 2 school and upsetting them, and then completely upsetting the apple cart. But that's a story for another time. And I kind of ranted a little bit without too much insight, whatnot. CUS sports right now is looks like the best source right now in terms of all this one without paying for extra services on ESPN. And Dennis Dodd has been all over this. I mentioned that prior during the Big 12 realignment saga after the Texas Oklahoma dominoes fell. So we'll kind of see how things play out from here. But right now, I think the realignment right now, I think, is on. It's on hold. I think right now it's dust is settling and schools are going to stay put. The Big 12 may add 2 more just to kind of ruffle some feathers a little bit. But beyond that, I don't see them going much anywhere else. I think for them, I think Boise State and Memphis are probably their top 2 priorities. Especially since Memphis will be spending money on their facilities to definitely upgrade the Liberty Bowl, which is much, much, much needed. And it all depends on what they do with the college football playoff. Depends where Notre Dame goes. If there's any obstacle that deters them from getting into the playoff, they will join a conference. If they're still able to get in as an at-large, they're going to stay independent, be half in or 3/4 of the way in with the ACC and all sports except for football and hockey, and just go from there. And this is something that we'll have to deal with for years to come until they finally decide, no, we're doing this. But hey, so let me know down in the comments below what you really think. Do you think the college football is inevitably going to these mega conferences, aka NFL style system, and going that direction? Or do you see, maybe they kind of staying put and kind of relaxing where they're at, and maybe 16 teams, maybe? Who knows? I mean, once I see anything happen in terms of any type of alignment, I'll make sure I get in front of this camera and provide you my 2 cents. But as of right now, as much as I want to see Notre Dame in the Big 10, a Notre Dame Illinois matchup, that's primetime TV right there. Not. But anyways, as much as I want to see the Irish in the Big 10, I've always said they belong to the Big 10. I am an Irish fan. They've always belonged to the Big 10, and they're still not going. I think the Big 10 just might as well just look elsewhere. As much as Notre Dame will move the needle for them, they're not going to get anything from the Irish, and it's inevitable. Either they go out west and we'll grab Oregon, we'll grab Washington, we'll grab Stanford, we'll grab Utah, we'll just decimate the pack, or they have to merge with the Big 12. And then maybe the Eastern time zone schools of the Big 12 goes to ACC. I mean, there's a few scenarios here and there that could possibly happen, but otherwise, status quo right now. Once the dust settles with Oklahoma, Texas, and USC, UCLA, like I said, maybe a couple other ones, maybe Memphis, Boise State. But beyond that, I think where they're at now is probably where we're going to be at, which is unfortunate because I kind of like the idea of some, continuing these type of scenarios. So we'll see how this plays out. And like I said, any news, I'll make sure I let you guys know. You can also, make sure you hit that thumbs up for me. So share this video with your friends and family. And once you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification so next time I post a video. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.